Hello everybody, I'm Raya and this is Rereads. Welcome back to my booktube channel. Today we're going to be talking about my January wrap-up. So we're going to get into my January wrap-up. I read 14 books, but I was on break and like half of them are rereads. So I still count those as books, but just know that they take me less attention and energy to get through. The first book I read was Foster by Claire Keegan. I don't remember exactly why I wanted to read this, but I know that Carrie can read and Jack of Words both liked it. This is about a girl who goes to live with her aunt and uncle for like a period of time because her mom and dad keep having children and she keeps getting neglected, so they just send her away for the summer. And it's about her feeling loved by these temporary parents. And it is kind of sad, but it's also kind of sweet and it's very nostalgic. Both Carrie and Jack said this would be emotional, but I didn't really feel too much. I thought this book was fine. I feel bad because like I don't dislike children or like their situations, but she was just so young. It was hard for her to describe what was happening, so like I didn't really care. It gives me the vibes of like The Little Princess, The Secret Garden, and Green Gables. That's sort of like child trying to understand what's happening vibe. I did like the vibes, and it reminded me of that one song on TikTok called like Kitchen Fan or something. You'll know it when you hear it. I give that 3.5 stars, so an okay start to the year. And after that I just started a bunch of books and wasn't able to commit to any of them. I DNF'd a lot of books. And you know what I do when I DNF a lot of books? I reread something. So I reread Percy Jackson. And yeah, it's only been a year and a half since I've read Percy Jackson, so it wasn't like a mind-blowing experience. I thought I'd have more fun with it, to be honest. But because of the show, I've just been consuming Percy Jackson content basically daily. So it wasn't anything new to me, but I still love the series. I had a good time reading it. So reading this in 3 days isn't ideal. I recognize that. I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to read, and I was like, I'll just read more Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is about a young boy who discovers that his father is Greek god, and now he has all these monsters coming after him. So he has to go to this camp to train, so he can, fight against these monsters. But like when he's at this camp, he realizes that there's like much bigger games at play, and that there's this big bad he and his friends need to defeat. I don't like the series, don't get me wrong, I love the casting, but the writing and the direction is just so weird. It's such a choice. I will do videos on it because I think this is how a lot of us feel deep down. We just don't want to admit that we got another bad adaptation. I'm disappointed, but it did the worst thing a show can do for me, which is make me question my love for the book. But then I reread Lightning Thief and I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, what did the show do? I don't understand. I love the second half of this series better than the first half. So when I was reading it, I just really wanted to get past the first two. So that's partly why I read it fast too. I think these books are amazing, but they just don't compete with the second half. And either way, I love Lightning Thief. I love how much it sets up. I love how much it sets up everything and just the characters' world building, relationships. It's just so good. And then Sea Monsters, I feel like has sequel syndrome, but then we really get back into it. The Titan's Curse is a little bit darker, has a little bit more of a twist, is like one for Seiko is Feral for Annabeth, and I love that. Annabeth is my everything. And then the Battle Labyrinth just has so much tension. You're like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? Like I love the Battle Labyrinth so much. And obviously, my favorite part in Last Olympian, besides all the Percy moments, are like the Battle of Manhattan is just so epic. And my favorite scene is where Percy like tells all the cabins where to go, and he's like, you guys go here, you guys go here, like this is our city, like guys, I can be a demigod. Let me try. These books, regardless of like how much these kids go through and how much pain there is, it still feels like home. The next book I read was All We Were Promised by Ashton Lattimore. All We Were Promised has 3 different perspectives, and I don't know any of their names really, but one of the perspectives is of this young black woman who is already free, who's living in Pennsylvania with her family, and they're pretty well off, and they have an established like social standing already in Pennsylvania, but she wants to get more into politics and helping other black women around. And then the other perspective we follow is this young black woman who just escaped slavery recently, but she still has to pass off as a servant to her father, who was white passing. So she does have freedom in the sense that she's not a slavery, but she can't do a lot of things because she's not like owned by anybody. Even she's not even pretending to be owned, but she just has like a lot of restrictions on what she can do as a black woman who doesn't have money. And then the third perspective we follow is this young girl who knew the second girl because they were slaves together, and then her owners are living in Pennsylvania for a while, so she runs into the second girl and she's trying to escape, and then the two other girls help her escape. I know I'm explaining this kind of badly because I don't remember their names, but it's not that hard to understand when you're reading. And I think all the perspectives and all of their like side characters and everything really added to the story, and how many perspectives we got of this experience. This isn't a criticism of the book, but I was just so confused. I'm like, how can you tell if somebody is enslaved or not? And they do kind of delve into that in the book, but it's just still so crazy that this was a topic in America. And then because this book involves like trying to break out a slave, the end of this book is very tense. It does end happily, but it's just very, very tense. And after that, I tried to read a lot more books and I couldn't get into any of them, so then I decided to read my favorite memoir, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And this is not a fun book to read, but it's very, very, very informative. And this is about the Stanford rape case, where there was a rape that happened at a party, but because the rapist was a prolific swimmer for Stanford, they were really worried that it would harm his reputation, and so they did not care. When people who were talking about and defending the man did not care about the victim in this situation, and that's where Chanel Miller comes in. You know, they had this whole court case. At the time, she was anonymous, but then she put out this memoir, so everyone knows her. And even if you don't want to read this book, I just really recommend that you read her impact statement, because I mean, I think it's the best part of this book. It's just so crazy, but it was just so vulnerable, and you can really feel how much being a victim takes away from you. And it talks about her struggles at court, you know, how she constantly has to defend herself even though she's a victim, and just like everybody's trying to defend the rapist, and this is real life, like this happened. This story had a satisfying end to it, so like, you know, we can live with that justice, but I just didn't know that this was what victims had to go through when I first read this. After that, you know, I was still in my book slump, still couldn't find anything I wanted to read. So I reread Wonder by R.J. Felicia. Wonder is about this young boy, middle school age boy named Augie, who has this facial deformity, and he's going to public school for the first time. It's about his perspective, you know, going into this school and trying to just like rationalize his feelings, but it's also just like about everybody else's perspective, and it's just so interesting. Like, it's not that big of a deal, like everybody's fine. But it's just, you just feel for all these characters and all their worries and everything. And I haven't read this book probably since 2020. This is one of the books that got me into reading, and I first read it in elementary school, and this is one of the books where I just actually understood what was happening in them. It's also just about middle schoolers, like relating to this book as a late elementary school going in middle school. It's crazy how accurate it is in terms of just like how nervous you feel for absolutely no reason. If you're a middle schooler watching this, I promise you that like it's not that deep. This book is just so relatable. Just like how all the kids are so anxious, and all of Aki's friends are just like worried about their social standings. It just like changed my life. We get Aki's perspective, we get his friends' perspectives. The stuff that happens here is just, it was not my middle school experience, but I can just envisioning this happening. I read this book so many times, and I can't relate to it now. I can't relate to like to the middle school characters now, but like I just feel for them. Everybody liked this book, you know. And like when you read books in school, like nobody likes them. Everybody likes this book, and it was just such a big deal when you got like the spin-off book, because it was like really hard to get. I have so many memories about this book, but it's just so good. It's just so good, and it got me into reading, and it got me, because this book taught me that empathy, so it got me wanting to learn more about other people. The next book I read was Frishi's Wrath by Emily Varga, and this is a Pakistani fantasy retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo, and I've never read that, so I don't really know what the retelling aspects are, but either way, this book was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. We follow this girl as she's in this prison. She breaks out and vows to get revenge on the man who betrayed her, who was her former lover. So this is a little bit of romantasy, because you can tell like the way she describes the situation, like something isn't adding up. Like this guy would not just like betray her like that. I'm gonna get into spoilers now, so hopefully you read this book. If you haven't, you should. I really wanted them, like I didn't necessarily want them to get back together. I just wanted to know. I was so invested to see why the guy betrayed her, and it was like for a valid enough reason. It's also just so sad. Like she breaks out of prison so she can see her dad, and then it turns out her dad is dead also, because it's kind of the guy's fault. So that's sad. And then she has this whole sequence where she takes this drug. It just like helps you with your powers, but it's dangerous. But she uses it to like physically change how she looks, so that she can take revenge on the guy without him noticing her. And I wish it delved more into like her like becoming a new person. Like, is this person different than who she was before? And that whole exploration of like, are you a different person based on like your actions or whatever. I thought it'd delve a little bit more into that. It didn't. It turned out the guy like always recognized her. Like he could like feel, he knew it was her the entire time, just like by the touch of her hands or whatever. And that was sweet. It's hard because like we didn't get that many moments of them together, so like I like them together just because of like I could feel the passion. His sister was like basically used as a plot device in the story, and it's kind of, I feel bad. Like I wish we got more of her. She really wasn't used as a character, and I hope we get like a spin-off where she's the main character, because I would love to follow more people in this world. I'd love to know more about her story. I actually forgot about this until now, but I remember the grandma was involved in a plot twist, and I didn't love that. I thought that was kind of out of left field. I didn't love the ending. Like I like, because they kind of talk, what is this colonialism? I think it's like imperialism. Is that where there's just like a kingdom that's just like benefiting off? Because the love interest got like adopted by the king when he was a baby, so he feels like allegiance to the king, but like the king is evil. So that's an interesting dynamic. I don't remember how they defeated the king, but I remember I didn't really like it. It just felt like weird and out of place and too easy. I didn't love that, but I thought that the ending was wholesome. The next book I read was The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones, and I read The Drowned Woods in December, and so I'm just gonna read more of her work. And these are standalones in the same world, not in the same time, but like in the same world. And I was hesitant to read The Bone Houses because it involves zombies essentially. I don't have anything like morally against reading about supernatural characters. I just never tend to like them, but I didn't really mind. It was kind of weird. They do talk about like themes of like death and like second chance of life or whatever with these zombies, but The Bone Houses, I don't really remember the plot. But it's about this girl and this guy, and I know that they go to this castle to get something. I think she's trying to get money and he's trying to get something. I think he's a map maker. I don't remember really. It's a quest, okay? They're trying to get somewhere. I don't know if I love this world because there are just kind of like creepy elements to it. I like the characters' journeys and I like the plot twist. It's just hard for me to get into them because the books are pretty short in terms of other fantasy standalones. Like we don't get a lot of time with these characters. I give the Bone Houses 4 stars, but I'm not gonna lie, it's probably gonna go down because I don't remember the plot. And then I gave the next book I read, which is The Wild Huntress, which is the other book in this interconnected standalone series. I gave this 3 or 3.5. It just had more characters, but like I just didn't get enough time with any of them. But The Wild Huntress follows this, in this world, like there's this hunt and all the characters are competing in this hunt. And don't ask me what the hunt is or what they're hunting because I don't remember. But I do know that they're all competing. The one girl has this power. She can see like through magic, so if something has been like transformed through magic, she can see like what it actually is. Only through one eye. And I thought that was cool. I don't remember why she's trying to go into hunt. I'm pretty sure they get something out of it. But I remember one of the guys is like a prince. And I don't remember what the other guy does. But either way, I wanted to like this more in theory, but we just get more characters, but then like less time spent with them. I was recommended The Drowned Woods by Carrie Can Read, so I just want to read more of these. About The Wild Huntress, she said that there was like a plot twist that she didn't like, and throughout this entire book I was like, oh, I wonder what the plot twist was that she didn't like. Even while reading, I did not know what it was, and I feel bad because I feel like I wasn't paying attention. But I also like I don't know, like this book is fine. It's just not like for me, and that's fine. And after that, I read Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. I tried to read Truly Devious before this, but it just bothered me how much like the Truly Devious series is about the same mystery. I thought it was gonna be one of those series where it's like each one is a different mystery. Nope, it's the same mystery. And I tried reading Truly Devious and I was like, this is dragging out so much, like, and then I just didn't like the characters. And we follow this girl who just has a job at this old mansion, I want to say. This mansion has like creepy stuff about it because it used to be owned by this family who had like a lot of kids, and they had like such like strict routine on like what they can do. Like all the kids except one kid like died in like mysterious circumstances. In present day, she like there's something happening that's like weird. This is one of those like mystery books where like you don't need to pay attention, because like if you don't pay attention to like what's happening, they're just gonna like sum it up in the next chapter. So I wasn't really paying attention. I also wasn't that invested, but it's also just because the main character wasn't that invested. Like she is not a detective, she's not trying to solve this mystery, she's just working at this hotel, which is refreshing that they're not trying to solve this mystery, but at the same time there's no like personal stakes in it. So if she didn't really care, I didn't really care. I don't like mysteries where you can't figure this out. You have to wait for them to tell you. Like you're not gonna figure it out just based on like the newspaper articles they give you, and just like I don't even remember how the present and past tense mystery connected. Either way, I'm just not gonna read more from this author because it seems like her work's not for me. The next book I read was A Theory in Dreaming by Ava Reed, and I got this arc from NetGalley. And I read Study Drowning last year and I liked it, and I didn't think I'd get the arc because I did. I read it. I liked this. If you like Preston and Effie from the first book, then I recommend you read this, but I don't think it's necessary. She doesn't necessarily explore things that like are interesting, so I don't think it's a cash grab necessarily. I think it's sweet that she wanted to write about these characters again, but at the same time there's like not really a plot, and it's it's more character focused, whereas the first one was like a plot and it had stakes and it was like kind of creepy. This one's not like that. And it's also just more focused on Preston, which I enjoyed more, but like Effie didn't do a lot in this book. She was kind of going through it. I did like how this book focused on the aftermath of all the traumatic events they went to in the first book, so that was nice to see. So this is a new location. We're going to be talking about my February wrap-up a month later than the first one, and we're just going to deal with that. So I read 2 books in February, which is still, you know, great for me, and they were both 4 stars. So the first book I read was Arc of Fable for the End of the World. And if you want to know more about my thoughts for this, I actually have posted a book review on this. Fable for the End of the World is a young adult dystopian that follows two female main characters, and one of them is being hunted for these kinds of games that are televised, and one of them is the hunter. And so we really get this enemies to lovers romance, but also because it's a dystopian, there is a lot of commentary on like class differences and corporations and kind of pitting communities against each other. And I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. It brought me back to young adult dystopian from like 2010s, and this was Ava Reed's love letter to the Hunger Games, and I think she did an amazing job. And I liked the characters, and I liked the setting, and I liked the plot. The first half of the book is just a lot better than the second half. Ava Reed actually posted something today to kind of clear up the confusion about the ending, and I still don't love the ending, but it honestly doesn't take away from my enjoyment for the first half. And I think you'd like this if you like the Hunger Games, but if you also just want a sapphic enemies to lovers that's like kind of instantly, kind of rushed, but like, I don't know, I like them. I like them individually, and I like them together. And especially if you like careers from the Hunger Games and you want like more about them, I think there's a character in this that kind of goes into, you know, you're kind of working for the government, but you yourself aren't really in control of what you're doing. The song for this book is I'm Your Man by Mitski, which was actually on Ava Reed's playlist for this book. The next book I read was But What Will People Say? I read But What Will People Say because when I read They Call This Exceptional last year, I kind of went down a Goodreads rabbit hole trying to find more books about similar topics and trying to inform myself about what mental health looks like in different communities. I'm Indian, and there's only so much I know about mental health in my community, mainly because it's not something that's really talked about. It's a mix between like her life story and then like self-help, and I didn't do any of the exercises in the self-help part because I was honestly just wanting to know more about her story. In my close community, there's not a lot of people that I can talk to that just like detail their life and their experiences, and part of that is because of the model minority myth, but even as just like people, you want to present the best of yourself to somebody. And so from family or family friends, I never really got to see a vulnerable side, and so this was interesting. You know, it kind of details her perspective growing up and then in college, and you know, deciding what job she wanted, but also just navigating her relationship with her parents and coming to terms with acceptance within herself. The difference I've noticed between the Western kind of psychology and the kind of psychology in other cultures, community is just such a big thing. Like, you know, but what will people say? It's because your life doesn't only revolve around you. It's your life is only part of this community. It's just hard to navigate in the Western world when everything is so self-centric. Okay, well, I think that wraps up my January and February wrap up, and so please let me know what you read for this first part of the year. I have not read a 5-star book in 7 months, and so I wouldn't say I've been in a slump, but it is definitely kind of annoying to be constantly reading things when nothing has like changed my life that much. Hopefully in March though. Hopefully in March. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you'd like to support me and support the channel, you can go ahead and like this video, comment, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram for more content.